Welcome back to the third part of this professional development seminar. So, we've looked at the flipped classroom. We are looking at how to incorporate active learning. And now the third aspect, which is the idea of infusing your classroom with a sense of what's called positive psychology. So, let's talk about psychology in general. When we think about psychology, we think about usually somebody laying on a couch or talking to a therapist. Now, the benefits to this psychological practice is that we have a disease model. So we can say if someone is depressed that they have, issues with their serotonin levels. And if we give them SSRIs, then we might mitigate those issues. It increases the use of the scientific method to develop theories based on evidence-based review of cases. Now, this is true with all social sciences because we are talking about human beings, and humans are hardly ever predictable. It's difficult at times to use that scientific method as rigorously as you might in a physics or chemistry environment. However, by utilizing the same tenets, then we have in fact turned psychology into a quote-unquote real or hard science. It creates a taxonomy and a subsequent reliable diagnosis. So we know that if this person has these 6 symptoms, there is a good chance that their diagnosis is this. And it allows us to create the science of mental illness. Also allows us to see that genetics play a role. Parents of same-sex children, so dad and son, have a higher chance of alcoholism or addiction issues than the, mom and son. So we begin to understand a little bit of the genetics, and then research studies that produce treatments, efficacy, and well-being for individuals. So we have a wonderful healthcare system where mental health is available for all, and everyone can go find a great therapist without the stigma, right? Well, of course I'm wrong. There are some problems with this disease model. Not to mention the fact that mental health is still a stigma. Mental health is not easily treated in this area because you have to find somebody that you connect with. It's not like a doctor where they take a blood test and tell you need to take more iron. This is, somebody that you need to be able to process your experiences with. So you have to have a connection on a much more subtle level. The other problems with the disease model is that individuals see themselves as the victims of something they have no control over. We were abused as children. We had domestic violence in our household. There was drug use in our household. Whatever it is, we are portrayed as a victim. And then the physicians focus on what's wrong and not what is right. Society says we need to repair damage and not emphasize the positive interventions. So, one of the problems with the disease model is that, those of us who may have mental health issues, it's not always all bad. People who are extremely risk averse, people who don't like to take risks, tend to be very stable individuals. And as a consequence, you could see that as a positive. People who grew up in households where there was a lot of emotional withholding tend to be very much in control of themselves and very good at leadership things. So, there's a lot of good stuff that comes with the bad stuff. So, to segue for a moment, this is Martin Elias Pete Seligman. And he is an American psychologist, educator, and author of self-help books. Seligman is a strong promoter within the scientific community of his theories of positive psychology and of well-being. He's at University of Pennsylvania, so he's a local boy, and his theory of learned helplessness is popular among scientific and clinical psychologists. People learn that if they always ask for help, someone will always provide them help. Think about when your kids say they can't find the milk in the refrigerator. Move the orange juice, it's behind the orange juice. And they still can't find it. So you get up and you move the orange juice, and there's the milk. And all of a sudden, you realize that you have just taught your child to be helpless because somebody will always come to their rescue. Now, that is not the end of the world, obviously. However, we have to think of it in a more broader context as teachers. So Seligman had 3 dimensions of happiness. The pleasant life. This idea enables people to think constructively about their past, gain optimism and hope for the future, and as a result, gain greater happiness in the present. Second, build on the strengths and virtue an individual brings to the table. This is where the teacher makes the most impact, because you don't know the whole story necessarily about the student. But what you do know is that they're a very good writer, or they're excellent in math, or they're a very creative coder. Whatever it is, suddenly you can pinpoint those virtues or those strengths and really emphasize those to the student. And whether or not the student even begins to understand that they do have talent, they do have a characteristic that is admirable, it becomes part of who they are. And we can nurture that talent. We as teachers nurture talent. So, when we are engaging with our students, remember, compliments are free. And you can give a compliment even if it's something small like your handwriting is nice. Because something positive to a student can go a huge way in making everybody feel better about themselves and about being in school. So here's a little bit more on Seligman's authentic happiness theory. So we have P for pleasure, that focuses on the experience of positive emotions. That's the subjective well-being, positive emotions. When somebody singles you out for doing something really good, or refers to you as someone who really knows what they're doing, that makes you feel good. Then there's the life of meaning, that emphasizes serving a greater purpose. And for many teachers, we do see ourselves as serving a greater good. We're not just, chasing an almighty dollar. We're trying to change lives. The life of engagement, which focuses on the pursuit of highly engaging and absorbing activities, that flow, that feeling of being in the moment. Think about, whatever your hobby is, whether it's writing, reading, video gaming, just sitting around staring at birds, any of those things, you lose track of time. And when you lose track of time, you have found your flow. Seligman later added positive relationships and accomplishments to his list of interventions. So again, relationship, that mentoring relationship between a student and an instructor is so important because it validates to the student that they are worthy of someone paying attention to them. And then accomplishments give us a greater sense that we can accomplish anything. One small victory on top of another small victory on top of another victory. And soon we suddenly have a nice self-esteem instead of it feeling like you're a terrible person all the time. So for our mathematics folks, happiness equals P plus E plus R plus M plus A. PERMA. So, these are a lot of times mnemonics that are used in psychology because there's a lot of different stuff going on, but it is a nice way of thinking about making a permanent impact on our students' lives. So, using these elements, positive emotion grows in conjunction with optimism. So it's important to focus on the good things in your life, and this will help build tenacity and persistence. Turn that around to students, point out the things they did really well. That's going to help them see that there's value in what they're doing. Engaging in the activities in our lives is important for us to learn, grow, nurture our personal happiness. We need something that absorbs us completely, creating a delightful flow. One of the things that has evolved over the last decade or so is the idea of Netflix and chill. And really, it's all about the Netflix, we all know. And to be able to sit for 6 hours and be completely immersed in a story is a flow experience because you don't feel like 5 or 6 hours went by. It was a blink of an eye. And to be that enraptured in a TV show, that's remarkable. Take this 200 years ago, before TV, before internet, before any of that stuff, and somebody would go to a Shakespearean play and for 3 hours learn what it was to be a prince whose mother had killed my father and married my uncle kind of thing. So the concept of flow doesn't necessarily have to mean you're climbing a mountain. It can be something that just really creates a positive experience in your body. Building positive relationships with friends and family not only provides support in troubled times, it minimizes emotional pain. We feel isolated and our pain sensors in our brains get triggered. So it's an evolutionary adaptation because we can't be alone. We don't want to be alone. Humans are essentially social animals. 200,000 years ago, our ancestors only survived because they worked together and stayed together. So when an individual develops their purpose, they also begin to build meaning in their life. And as we are social animals, we are hardwired to ask ourselves why we think the way we do and why we work towards certain goals, metacognition. So in a sense, when you were 13 or 14 and your life's ambition was to own a really cool car, and now you are significantly older than 14, your life's ambition has probably changed. But maybe not. We ask ourselves, what's important to me? And especially as you get older, you realize experience is so much more important than things. So you're willing to pay a little extra to go somewhere and have a unique experience rather than buying a, 88-inch TV, which is also fine if you like that. Because, again, as they kids say, you do you. By achieving realistic goals, individuals develop a sense of pride, accomplishment, and fulfillment, which help the person flourish in other areas of their life. And again, back to the teaching concept. If a student can develop a sense of pride about the work they do in a class, that's going to blossom in other areas of their lives. And the more it blossoms in other areas of their lives, the more they will see that they are valued, that they have skills and opportunities. So, as teachers, we have a wonderful responsibility, but we also have a wonderful gift. And the gift is being able to impact people and have them maybe not remember our names in 10 years, but they remember something we said or advice, or even that moment of you wrote something on their paper, good job, and they still feel how good that felt. So, to learn more information about authentic happiness, here is the website, and I'll include that as a link below. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email myself or Mark Whitehead. Our email addresses will also be in the links below. And finally, you will be given 2 surveys. One survey is anonymous, and it is a opinion-based survey on how we did. And the second one is an application survey, which allows us to track who's completing these assignments or completing these professional development seminars, and more importantly, validates that you have received the professional development in your personnel file. So, any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, have a fabulous day.